All right, everybody. Welcome back into another episode of the markleskopodcast. Joined by Chris Gorki once again. Chris, great source for information, especially on the head.
He was. Yeah.
Good luck. All right, the next head coach, Chris, things are heating up, and here's the thing. Okay, I just want to say this real quick about Chris. Chris was on the Big Ten Huddle, and he's always a good guest on there. That's a good channel. Go watch it. Those guys are good. People, and I've heard this, it's not specifically about Chris, but I've heard this so many I've heard it on channel. I won't mention names, but I've heard it on channels that have pretty big followings. And I'll say this too. You can tell when someone is not a long time fan of Penn State. You can tell. I am, Chris is, Brett is, my dad is, Matt from Penn State jerseys. We're all diehard fans. And you can tell when someone is not. Again, I'm not going to mention names, but there have been shots taken at people like Chris who have connections and they report stuff and they're trolls. They're like, you don't know, dude, the fact that anyone's saying that to you, Chris, like I said, I watched the episode and they're like, you don't know what you talk about. Your sources are crap. It's like, Chris has connections. Unlike you people, he has connections and he reports what he's told. He tells me, other people tell me stuff. Like, that's all he can do. He's just reporting what he's told, and he does have connections. So let's listen to what Chris has to say here.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You know, there's always the Big Ten Huddle. Those guys are great. Most of the comments are pretty good. But, you know, like you said, some of them are trolls. You know, this is just, again, I have never misreported anything. I have always said, and I make it a point, I told the Big Ten Huddle, I told Mark, I am not an insider. I've never claimed to be an insider. I have a connection with one insider, and I have a connection or two with some friends that have direct friends that are BOT members. Okay. That the BOT Board of Trustees is big at Penn State. They don't work with crap, but they're in connection with crap. You know what I mean? Communication. They work in concert with each other. All right. You know, when I was with Rivals was a recruiting site. I wasn't paid by him, but the person who ran the Rivals recruiting site for Penn State asked me to do player evaluations for him because that's my thing. That's what I like. I became good friends with him. When you pay for work for a recruiting site or friends, that's premium information. Those guys' jobs are to give you premium information because they're the ones that have direct connections to Penn State. Like, hello. And that's all it was, you know, knowing a few friends that are connected with BOT members and, you know, having a pretty good source that I'm still close with that ran Penn State Rivals site. Why that's hard to believe, I don't understand. And I've never claimed to the end of the show, you'll tell me, guess who the next week. It's just a guess. I never claimed I know exactly what's going to be. All I could do is tell people what is going on with the search, where they're at. And this has been a fluid situation, and it's been said by everybody, it's going to be a fluid situation. There's names that will, you know, drop off week to week. There might be a name that gets added week to week. That is how a coaching search works, especially one this long. So to get into it, I know there's been a lot of Kalen DeBoer smoke recently. I don't want to be a party pooper here, but I really don't see Kalen DeBoer getting the job. I do. How this all started, from my understanding, what I've gathered, what I was told, Pat Kraft is swinging big. He's reached out to about every big name coach he could, including Marcus Freeman, which obviously isn't happening. Mike Elko, we discussed. Kalen DeBoer, the communication was never great. Supposedly his agent would just, you know, I guess probably respond with basic communication, but there wasn't much interest on his part. Recently, the interest has picked up a little. Okay, it's a very long shot. I don't think they're going to get Kalen DeBoer, but recently there's been some smoke with like some BOT members talking that, you know, there's some buzz with Kalen DeBoer's name. I think that kind of died down a little bit. I don't know what caused that stir, but I really don't see them getting Kalen DeBoer. And everybody asks, why would someone like a Mike Elko or Kalen DeBoer leave their current situation? They're at a better program, so much more money, blah, blah, blah. So there's stuff that goes on behind the scenes. There's things that people might not know about. Kalen DeBoer, it's been reported by, a person I trust pretty good source, not my direct source, but someone I know of that worked in the NFL that has connections all over, that Kalen DeBoer isn't exactly happy coaching at Bama, even though he's doing a decent job there. The stress, the pressure at Bama is just making it not fun for him to coach there. Supposedly, rumors about his wife not liking it too much there. I don't know how true that is about his wife and all that, but I know there's enough people that reported it that if things go south with DeBoer, that Penn State could be a spot that he might choose to go to. Now, the Auburn game will tell you everything. If he beats Auburn, I don't think there's any chance Penn State gets him. That's just my opinion because they're going to be in the playoffs then. I don't think they're going to wait. They can't risk waiting that long for a playoff coach. If he loses to Auburn, it'll get interesting. I still don't think he ultimately leaves Alabama, but if he loses to Auburn and he's out of the playoffs, that will really heat things up at Bama. There'll be more pressure on him, and he might just say, I don't want to deal with this crap, and that's just what's been reported. Again, and this is what the trolls do. They'll say I'm saying Kalen DeBoer. I'm saying he's very unlikely. Again, all I can do is report what's going on, where we're at currently with the search, and that's where we're at, okay, with Kalen DeBoer. Past that, it's just exhausting. I'm sure a lot of people heard Bob Chesney. Bob Chesney has not been on the radar this whole search until recently. Bob Chesney is now on the radar. Where he falls in the pecking order, I'm not too sure. Well, I know he's not their top two, like one or two candidates. But past that, somewhere in the middle, so not really sure where, but he's probably somewhere in the middle. He's now on the radar. He had a phone interview or communication with Pat Kraft. I know they're setting up an in-person interview. I believe there was a flight going out the other day from Harrison, Virginia to State College, but I think that flight was canceled. Someone mentioned. And Pat Kraft was very impressed with Chesney. I know from what I was told, he really impressed upon him. But Pat Kraft Chesney is kind of like Brian Hartline, where he's in the mix, but right now kind of a fallback guy. That's the way I took it. Right now, Pat Kraft is still swinging for the fences. I don't know who else is out there that we haven't already mentioned. Like, I don't know what other big name coaches are out there that, are attainable to him. It's Kalen DeBoer, number one. Mike Elko's off the board. Jeff Brom's pretty much off the board. Kalen DeBoer's number one target. Number two target, and this has been pretty consistent, Brent Key. They really, really like Brent Key. Now, the one thing I always wondered, for weeks now, they kept saying Brent Key was like 1B, target 1B. But I always was curious as what is Brent Key? Like, yeah, all coaches are going to put tweets out, I love where I'm at. Cut me open, see what I bleed. That's what Brent Key said about Georgia Tech because I guess he went there. John Sober, Center Daily Times, who's a very well-sourced journalist, he and Audrey Snyder did a show the other day. John Sober was the first person I heard acknowledge that Brent Key has interest in the Penn State job. That doesn't mean he would take it if offered. I don't know. But it's the first person I've heard acknowledge how Brent Key feels about Penn State. And I know Pat Kraft really likes him. He's option 1B to Kalen DeBoer and option 1B if there's another big name that pops up out of nowhere, which I don't think there is. So after Kalen DeBoer and Brent Key, then you got Eli Drinkowitz. Drinkowitz, you hear different things. I always kind of guessed that by process of elimination, there's a good chance it would fall to Drinkowitz. So, but here's the thing. Jimmy Sexton, like the super agent, he represents all these coaches. He represents Drinkowitz, Lane Kiffin. He represented Franklin. I don't think I'm not sure if he represents Brent Key. But basically, I guess the hesitation with going all in on Drinkowitz is A, they're looking for someone a little higher up, but B, more so, they were worried about him going south, wanting to stay south. And like, if Lane Kiffin doesn't get the Florida job, Drinkowitz might be Florida's second option, or same thing with LSU. That's what the hesitation was. Everything I've gathered, once Lane Kiffin, and he's supposed to make an announcement after the Egg Bowl, once Lane Kiffin makes a decision, that's going to get the ball rolling with all the rest of these coaches. It's kind of like Lane Kiffin holds the cards right now. And, you know, once we see what he does, like if Lane Kiffin goes to Florida, LSU doesn't want Drinkowitz, maybe we get him. Maybe Brent Key says no, and we get Drinkowitz. Maybe Brent Key says yes. But right now, I mean, that's where it's at. So I'm not here to make any predictions. I'm just telling you where the search is at right now. Pat Kraft's still swinging for the fences, still pushing Kalen DeBoer. Brent Key is option 1B. Drinkowitz and Chesney are in there somewhere, and Hartline is still a fallback guy. That's where we're at.
Okay. All right. So a couple of things here, Chris. Yeah, it's I've always said, you know, of course you have sources, and they're good sources. It's just like, dude, no one really knows. And they said it on Landon's show that Pat Kraft might be putting out like just teasers just to like put out false information. I mean, you know, that's not a terrible strategy if you're trying to put smoke out there on people. But all right, so a couple things here. So here's my take real quick. I'm okay if we get a head coach from somewhere else. But here's the thing. If a head coach leaves to be a head coach somewhere else, minus like JMU or Georgia Tech, you know, if you leave like an SEC school to be a head coach at Penn State, it's like, well, you do that to us. So my, and you mentioned Eric Morris the other day. The guys that I would truly want are guys that are either a head coach at a smaller school or an assistant, like a Brian Hartline or a Bob Chesney or an Eric Morris. The one VT guy said that VT they picked Franklin over Bob Chesney, so we're going to get the second choice for VT. It's like, okay, man, that's great. So here's what I think. Either get one of those guys like a Hartline, or and one, Joe asked, are we going to hear before the final week of the season? Because we do need to get someone soon. And two, Chris, answer that question. And two, Franklin Empire. No, Franklin is not leaving to come back here. We would never, ever, ever. We won't ever have him back for a visit, let alone as a coach. Hell no. One, will we hear soon? And two, do you think Terry Smith could be the head coach? Because right now, for me personally, I am very okay with that.
No, I know you very much want that to be a possibility, but Terry Smith is not going to get the job. It's not happening. Now obviously when this is all said and done and Pat Kraft announces a coach, obviously he's going to be asked, did you consider Terry Smith? Of course he's going to say yes, but Terry Smith is not happening. Now, and I'd hate to say this, and I don't want to feed the troll, but like it was also reported that Terry Smith was at Franklin's house just a few days ago or whatever. So it is not, and when someone asked Terry Smith about possibly following Franklin, and he said something, I forget what he said, but he basically said, anything's possible at this point. I don't know. Like he didn't give the best answer. And as much as Terry Smith, I'm just calling it like I see it, as much as Terry Smith bleeds blue and white, loves Penn State, he also loves Franklin. And there is a good chance, like it's probably 50-50 if he stays at Penn State or follows Franklin. I think staying at Penn State, probably make more money if you stayed at Penn State, I would think. So I would lean staying at Penn State. But don't be shocked if Terry Smith does follow Franklin. And there's something I forgot to mention about Lane Kiffin. I do think if I were to pick between LSU and Florida, I do think it would be LSU. Ross Dellinger, who's a national media guy, is as plugged in as anybody, said that something along the lines, he put a tweet out that there's a contract in place, or we're going over a contract with Lane Kiffin, coming up as we speak, or something along those lines. I don't know. So I do think it's more, I haven't followed Lane Kiffin stuff so much, but I do think it's more likely that Lane Kiffin right now probably goes to LSU. Then you got to wait and see what Florida does. So I don't know. But, I mean, that's where we're at. It's just an exhausting. Oh, and another thing, when you mentioned something about Pat Kraft, weeks back, it has been mentioned and reported. Watch for misdirection. I don't know if that was, maybe that's related to Pat Kraft, like from what you're mentioning, but they said watch for a lot of misdirection from coming. Between Jimmy Sexton representing all these guys, he could use it as so much leverage. He could toy with so many programs, and Pat Kraft maybe wanting to throw the scent off a little bit. Just have to wait and see. I mean, it's the names I have, like I said, Kalen DeBoer, Brent Key, 1-2. After that, it's kind of a toss-up between Drink and Chesney, and then Hartline. That's where we're at.
So when it comes to Terry Smith, and we've talked about Terry Smith, but I personally would not think he would leave. But why do? So you don't think so? Have you been told he's not going to be the head coach? You've been told that because he has no experience as a head coach. That's one thing.
That's the thing. They see. Here's the thing with this. I don't mean to cut you out, but here's the thing. Pat Kraft made it very, and this is why Hartline is not a top candidate. He's a backup. Pat Kraft has made it clear from day one. He wants an established sitting head coach, and he wants the next head coach to come in with a good NIL plan, an established NIL model, an established GM. Terry Smith doesn't have that. Like he was just thrown into the fire. Now, sure, you could go out and get one, but the whole thought process is like they invested so much money into this stadium expansion, invested so much money into this program. They don't want to rebuild. They don't want a long rebuild. They want a coach to come in, hit the ground running, hit the portal hard, have a strong GM, a strong NIL model, and head coaching experience. And unfortunately, as much as I love Terry Smith, it's just not going to be him. I wasn't outright told, no, he's not going to get the job. But I mean, it's pretty much that's what it is. He's not going to be the next head coach. The only way Terry Smith will be the next head coach is if like every single candidate just about turned him down, which I don't think, isn't going to happen.
So you think he leaves? Do you think he leaves?
I don't think he does, because I think his love for PSU, and it's, let's be honest, money is everything. I think he would probably make more money at Penn State, so I would ultimately guess on him staying at Penn State. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if he followed Franklin. I would, he loves Franklin. He really respects the guy. He's worked with him for over a decade now. And, I mean, that is a possibility. If I were to bet, I would say no, he stays at Penn State ultimately. But it's not out of the picture that he follows Franklin.
No, it's absolutely a possibility. If you watch his pressers, and he is a complete 180 from Franklin. He's some of the stuff he said. It's like, I did not like how it was going down here. Like he didn't like it, and he's made some subtle like jabs at Franklin. Not saying anything bad about Franklin, but just some of the stuff he said. He's like, this was not going well at all. So I think ultimately he stays here in some capacity. I've heard stuff about him being a GM, for Penn State, but
I've heard that too, but
Chris, why is he offering Whippio guys money if he's not staying here? You know what I mean? I think he knows something.
Well, I mean, he's doing his job to try to keep the recruiting going. And I think that the guys he's offering money are probably the 27 guys, since the 26 guys all decommitted. But I just think he's doing his job. I just think he's doing what's in Penn State's best interest to try to, keep guys here and keep them on board. I don't think he'll be the GM because, again, we're talking experience. You need a guy with experience, a background in that. I mean, could Terry Smith learn to be the GM? Sure. But, you really need a guy that knows how to manage a roster financially, not just recognize talent, but manage them financially. And, Kraft's made that clear. He wants an NIL model. NIL's everything today. It's just, like it or not, it's just, you need a strong NIL game. And that's what Eli Drinkowitz had. I'm kind of like, he's kind of a nerdy guy. He's not a fiery alpha type of guy, but his NIL model was great. he had such a strong NIL cast at Missouri and just in-depth NIL guys. And he they had some money there, but it wasn't like they're Oregon or Texas. And he moneyballed the shit out of some great, getting some big time recruits. And he was great in the portal. So,
yeah, well, a lot of our recruiting, Chris, came from Terry Smith, and he is a diehard Penn State fan. OJ McDuffie, he came out and he said Terry Smith should be the next head coach. But here's the thing: you guys have to realize he was a cornerbacks coach for 12 years under Franklin, and he was at Temple before that. At no point did he, I think, move really at all. He was always the assistant head coach, I believe, and that's I give Franklin credit. I don't know why he did that, but he made Terry Smith the assistant head coach. So I always had some confidence in our games because I knew Terry Smith was there. But he is a diehard Penn State guy, but he has no experience as a head coach. And he probably had many opportunities to go be an OC or a DC or an OC or a head coach, and he never left Penn State. So it's like he just doesn't have the experience as a coach, but I love what he's doing right now. Now, Chris, you've talked about some of the play calling and stuff like that, and I know what you're saying. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, but we have to hear soon, man. Like, I've talked to multiple people this week, and they're like, we have to know soon because we have the December 3rd signing date coming up. But then again, who are we signing? Man. You know what I mean?
It's out the window. The class is shot to hell. You'll salvage some guys. The portal starts in January, and the portal is 1,000 times more important to the next few years than the 26 class. 26 class is done. It's done.
Yeah, and Franklin totally, he totally quit on his team. He is such. The only word is, man, he's a coward. He quit on his team. And now he's taking our guys. Like, of course that happened. But you know what, Chris, do you think Karma will get him? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to catch up to him at some point.
I think any chance, the reason he held off on being the Virginia Tech, announcing or accepting the Virginia Tech spot was he wanted a bigger program. He did want to explore his option. He was hoping for a bigger program. I saw somewhere where he was waiting, hoping that Florida State maybe fired Mike Norvell. And the karma is he made his own bed where any shot now at coaching at another blue blood like Penn State is out the window for him. Unless he knocks it out of the park at Virginia Tech, it's going to be very hard for him to, get another job at the level of program Penn State was. Arkansas was considered him a little bit, but again, that's Arkansas. It's not anything big. So.
All right, Chris, we can jump off here soon, but serious question. Would you rather see VT winning out of your Notre Dame? While Franklin's there, Notre Dame, 100%. But that's never going to happen. I mean, Franklin won at Auburn.
Yeah.
Listen, you guys, like I said, you guys are talking to two diehard fans here, okay? listen to what we're saying about Franklin. You guys that are like saying stuff about, it's like, you guys listen to what we're saying. I mean, learn from us. Like, Ohio State fans said all this stuff about Knowles and he's bad. Well, that's not totally true. It takes time for him to coach, establish his system. I don't know. But, Chris, yeah, man, I don't know. Like, the signing period, like you just said, it's pretty much – I think we should just take our time relatively and get the right guy. But if Terry Smith is going to stay, and I think he will, like you said, I don't know if a Drinkowitz is the right fit, but I don't know. I don't know, man.
Let's run down here. Let's run down real quick. Like, I'll give you my take on the coaching targets, how I feel about it right now. Quick side note: I do think Auburn's going to hire John Sumrall. I think Auburn was like John Sumrall's dream job, and I think he's going to be headed to Auburn. Okay, so right now, Kalen DeBoer, top target. There's really not much to go over there. He's the best of the bunch, even though it's a very, very, very slim chance. His record in big games, his overall record is great. Okay, Bob Chesney, since he's the new flavor of the week. I don't have – here's the thing. If this was pre-NIL, I would be fine with Bob Chesney. But kind of how I just went over the whole spiel about NIL. I don't have a big problem with Bob Chesney coaching at a lower level and then coming to Penn State. You know, it's still Division I, football's still football. The guy has won everywhere. My issue is, you know, I'm sure at James Madison, he didn't have to manage NIL much. I'm not saying they didn't get anything. But, you know, it wasn't like he had I'm sure he didn't have this great GM. I'm sure he wasn't in bidding hordes with a lot of, you know, like for recruits like he would be at Penn State. So I do think his coaching chops, X's and O's, are great. I think he would be a good recruiter. He commands a room. I could see recruits and parents thinking he's genuine and winning kids over. But, you know, our kid's going to want, you know, like, being that he was a lower level guy and everything's about development right now, is he going to have assistant coaches that have a track record of developing guys to put in the NFL that he could point to, you know, and the NIL thing. So X's and O's, winner, good guy, PA guy. Thing with Chesney would be, you know, he would stay for a long time. You know, you wouldn't have to worry about him bouncing in 3-4 years. So that's where I'm at with Chesney. Brent Key, Southern guy, no connections to the Northeast. What I was told, why Pat Kraft and they like Brent Key so much. Brent Key's an old-fashioned, tough SOB type of coach. He will hold his players accountable. The guy don't mess around. Former offensive lineman, was offensive line coach under Nick Saban in Alabama. He to me, he kind of reminds me of a Jim Harbaugh a little bit. His strong offensive line plays, that's his game. Strong offensive line play, strong power run game, and he's developed Haynes King into a very good – Haynes King was averaging over 260 yards passing. Yeah. And I never thought Haynes King, watching him prior places at like A&M, was all that great of a passer. So I understand why, like, they like the toughness of Chesney, the blue-collar mentality. And he was good with the portal too. He was good with the portal. He was good at NIL, but not from the Northeast. Does he want to stay South? Would he run back to the South? Doesn't have connections recruiting up here in the Northeast. So that's the good and bad with Chesney. Cover Drink. Drink's a Southern guy. He's a nerdy dude, you know, but great. I mean, NIL aspect, Drink is number one for me. Blue chip ratio is big. Blue chip ratio, for the people that don't know, that's where, but it was Bud Elliott, I think. All the 4 and 5 stars combined that on a roster, he takes into account. Missouri didn't have a good blue chip ratio. And even though Drink didn't win a ton of big games at Missouri, he won some. You know, what he did with what he had was pretty damn good. Like Missouri, when he first started there, and even to this point, was kind of like the Maryland of the Big Ten. And what Drink did there, he's a good quarterback developer, great with NIL, good X's and O's, good on offense. But again, no Northeast connections. If you hire him and he does well at Penn State, and then there's another big job opening down south somewhere, does he leave and go back down south? That's, I think, what people are kind of worried about with Chesney. Who else is this? So with Drink. So they're the four. Everybody knows about Hartline. I don't think he's going to happen. But that's my take on the good and bad and the four. If Bob Chesney could get a good NIL team together, if he could get a good GM and bring a strong NIL game, I think he could be all right. I mean, Kirk Cignetti. But for every Kirk Cignetti, there's a Billy Napier. Billy Napier was, smaller school and killed it. Had won some championships or whatever where he coached and wasn't good at Florida. So
for every Kirk Cignetti, there's like 5 Napiers.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, here's the thing. Thank you for that information. If I were to take a head coach right now, at most, I would like to have Drink because he's at Missouri. And for some reason, Bo's playing tomorrow. So, but here's the thing. I want, like you said, if I were to go a head coach, I would like to have a Drinkowitz. But I've always said Bob Chesney. I've always said Eric Morris. I've always said Brian Hartline. But like you said, Bob Chesney's a PA guy. He's going to be here a long time. Hartline, I don't know, man. I don't know if he would come here and then he would leave. I don't know. But, yeah.
Hartline would want the Ohio State job. First of all, Hartline's probably not getting the job. But he would, like a lot of guys that I mentioned, just all those other guys I mentioned would have to say no. Hartline wants the Ohio State job. But if Marcus Freeman's still around when Ryan Day retires, which he would be, obviously, Ohio State's first call would probably be to Marcus Freeman. And Bob Hartline would probably be, I think, the second option. But that's projecting and jumping ahead because we don't know how Hartline would do as a head coach if he were to come here. So
yeah, the thing is, I will say this. Bro, why would he be crazy to leave Ohio State for Penn State? Here's the thing about Hartline. If he doesn't come to Penn State, it's because we don't want him. That's why he's not coming. Okay? Ohio State fans, you guys can say whatever you want. If he doesn't come to Penn State, it's because we don't want him. All right?
Is this an Ohio State fan or?
Yeah, I've Manziel is. He's cool, but Ohio State is not as great as you guys think they are, okay? So you guys, you come on here and, you say that Hartline isn't leaving for Penn State. Bro, if he doesn't come to Penn State, it's because we don't want him, okay? That's it. You guys need to chill. But
Hartline already told, listen, he already told Pat Kraft he would take the job if offered. Even Ohio State guys I know have already mentioned that they even would support it and they have a plan in place in case Hartline left. I love the comment where he makes, this is great. What did he say? Why would Hartline leave for, I don't know. Why would any offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, young offense defense coordinator, why in the world would they want to leave to be a head coach? I don't know. That never happens. I mean, you never see an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator strive to move up in their position. They don't do that. They never want to be a head coach, right? I mean, come on, man. You guys got to take – the one thing I am not is a sunshine pumper. I love Penn State. I call it like I see it. I hold Terry Smith just as accountable as Franklin. You guys got to take your bias out of it. Why would he leave Ohio State? Because he's an offensive coordinator at Ohio State, and Ohio State and top up and coming coaches strive to be head coaches. That's why.
PSU Nitwit.
Jesus.
Thank you very much for the donation, man. $49.99. Great show. Here to support you guys. Thankful for the Franklin Air is over this Thanksgiving. Amen, man. I've not been more excited about Penn State football than I have been the last couple games because we actually have a real Chris, you can agree. We have a real coach compared to Franklin. My God.
Yeah, we got a real coach. My only issue is I wish he'd give Tyson. I wish he would bench Hudson for the rest of his life and just give Denmark a shot. Why he keeps playing Hudson is beyond me.
I mean,
and this is why I
don't get it.
Accountable. The same thing as Franklin. We hammered Franklin for not giving younger receivers a chance. I mean, he's starting to give Howard a chance, even though he's getting a lot of targets. Why is he not giving Denmark a chance? You had Kyron Hudson has done nothing all year, nothing. Why he wants to keep playing?
Yeah, I don't get it. But Nitwit, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate that. It is a great time, but that's the biggest donation we've had. Thank you very much.
Yep, that's a lot. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. DM me on Instagram, PSU Nitwit, because you've been on here before. I want to talk to you a little more on Instagram. But I'll just say this, all right? Listen, I've cool, but bro, you Ohio State fans, you seriously. Oh my God, you guys are so delusional when it comes to how great you are. You guys have your identity through Urban Meyer, and he was literally so close to signing with us. If it weren't for Urban Meyer, who would you guys have right now? Ryan Day would be at Penn State right now. You guys are so delusional that you think Brian Hartline would not leave for Penn State. It's insane that you guys say that. And you guys this year, you've played nobody, okay? You've played no one. You guys have not faced any adversity all season, except for us when you were up 14. What was it? 14-10 at halftime.
It was 17-14 at halftime.
17-14.
Look, I'll give Ohio State their props. I mean, they lost
absolutely. They are very.
I do think right now I know you don't want to hear it, but again, this is why I say I'm not a sunshine pumper. They are the standard right now. I'm not.
Absolutely.
They are what they are. They lost. It's incredible for how much, obviously their receivers are great. They don't lose much there, but so much on their offense and defensive line, a brand new quarterback, and to keep playing at a high level like they did and not drop off with two brand new coordinators offense. I give you props. You guys are the standard right now. But this is what I mean by taking your bias out of it. You hear how he just talked about Terry Smith, who's Terry Smith is Penn State's Brian Hartline, beloved. You hear how I just said, yes, there's a chance he might follow James Franklin to Virginia Tech. That is me taking my bias out of everything because that's a possibility.
All right. So
it's more than a possibility that Brian Hartline would come to Penn State. It's a fact he would come to Penn State if he got the offer.
Absolutely. And if anybody knows, it's Chris. But Ive Manziel said we're overhyping the Penn State job. And is Penn State a top 10 job? Listen, I kind of know what you're saying. You're saying Penn State's a bit of an overhyped job. Listen, we had the scandal. Franklin came in and he embraced this job when no one else. It was not a popular job. So in that sense, I get it. But now it is. To me, it always was. It's Penn State, man. Okay, it's Penn State. I mean, it's a blue blood program. Of course, it's a top. What are you talking? Of course, it's a top 10 job. My God,
it's the thing he's saying is I get what he's saying that you could possibly look at 10 other programs that are right there. They're probably a little above Penn State. It's probably borderline top 10. Okay, and then the location thing, people make a big issue, middle of nowhere, hard to recruit. But here's the thing. Pat Kraft, they have money now. And Pat Kraft was willing to make Mike Elko the highest paid coach in the country. He was willing to offer Mike Elko north of $15 million. I'm sure he's offering Kalen DeBoer something similar. If you're willing to make a head coach the highest paid head coach in the country. Now, I'm not saying who he hires. Obviously, if it's a Bob Chesney, it's not going to be the highest paid coach ever. But if you have the ability and you're willing to make a coach the highest paid coach in the country, your school's a pretty top program. It's NIL hurts a little bit. Frankly,
you're saying a top 5 job. I'm thinking you're talking about available right now. Of course, it's top 5. I mean, I think it's top 5 no matter what. I think it's top 5. I mean, it's a blue blood, man. But
there's other blue bloods. I wouldn't say, you got to you do have to acknowledge there's other blue bloods out there. But
absolutely, yes.
You know,
Yeah, Hartline would leave for VT to be Franklin's. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Not top 10, not top 5, top 10, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's all relative. I mean,
it is. It doesn't matter. It's borderline top 10.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
it's
but
top 10.
You're a real one. You need to like answer me on Instagram, bro. Like I want to have you on here, but you don't answer me. So I want to have you on here. I think he's scared.
If I had a choice, if I'm a top football coach and I had a choice between LSU, Florida, and Penn State, I'm not going to lie. Again, I'm not a son. I love Penn State, but I would take Florida. I would take Florida and LSU for 2 reasons. They're going to have more NIL support, and they're in the South where you could get recruits. Like, just it's a lot easier to recruit there. Okay, but you know, Penn State recruiting region, they've expanded a lot now. We've been great in the DMV. There's a thing that in the last 10 years, I don't know, it was the last so many years that Penn State recruited more players from Virginia than any other program. The Tidewater area, Virginia's loaded. Maryland, for a small state, is loaded with top programs. St. Francis, Gilman, Gonzaga, DeMatha, McDonough, they're loaded, okay? PA got its share of top programs. St. Joe's, it's good. You got New Jersey. It's still a very good recruiting region.
So, yes, it is. Now, again, I've said this in the past. Like when I was in school, my senior year I graduated in 2011. My senior year was 2010. So the year I was playing my senior year, that's when Royster broke the rushing record against Michigan. Like that was that year.
Yeah.
If I was a big time recruit and I had, you know, when I played sports, like I could have gone to a college, like a smaller college and played, or maybe tried to walk on somewhere. You know, I was not a D1 prospect by any means. However, if I was a big time D1 prospect, I live in Penn State's backyard. I love Penn State. If I was a big time recruit, I probably would have gone to Ohio State because I have so much respect for that program and respect for Jim Tressel. That's probably what I would have ended up playing, honestly. But, you know, but I think people would take the Texas A&M jobs better. Florida. Is Auburn in Florida? All right.
Auburn's
Chris,
a mess.
Auburn's a mess. Chris, do you want to jump off? You want to stay on or?
No, I'm good to jump off. I just wanted to note something. You brought up the rushing record. You know, Katron Allen's close to beating Royster's record.
Yes. Tomorrow.
Katron Allen, 3,920 some yards. Royster has 3,794 yards. He's going to get the record. Now, I don't know if he'll get it these next 2 games. It'd be close. I think it was like 180 yards. So it'd be close if he got it the next 2 games. But if we make a bowl and he plays in a bowl game, if he doesn't opt out of a bowl game, he would get it.
Chris, last question.
Yep.
Okay. Because I don't know. Again, PSU Nitwit, thank you for the donation, man. That's awesome. But if we win tomorrow, which I think we do, and we win against Rutgers, which I think we do, there's people saying we're not going to play in a bowl game. I'm like, they're not going to play. They're just going to turn it down. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? So,
wait,
excuse me.
You think they will select Penn State? Is that what?
Well, we'll be 6-6. We'll have to be. We get a bowl regardless.
Who is saying that?
That they won't play.
The dumbest comment I've ever heard yet.
I know, but I've heard people say it. They're like, they're not going to play. They're going to opt out. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, that's why I'm clarifying. Like, are they asking if Penn State would be invited to a bowl game, or do they mean turn down, like players opting out? Players opting out is a different story.
Like the school would turn it down.
Well, that makes no sense. Listen. Bowl games are about money, okay? Penn State travels better than any other school out there. They are not going to turn Penn State down. Do you recall a few years back, I think Penn State was chosen to go to the Rose Bowl over someone that was a little higher up than us, or like their record was. I forget. I don't know, it was against Utah.
When was this?
Wasn't it when Penn State played Utah? Maybe Ohio State was above us, but they passed on Ohio State or something like that. I don't know, but the point I'm making is whoever said that makes no.
I don't know.
That
like
makes
I
no
think
sense. If you're eligible for a bowl and your bowl wants to make money, you want to invite schools that are going to bring the most people there, spend the most money. That is Penn. You want to talk about top 10? That's top 3 Penn State right there. They travel as good as anybody.
So, okay, last thing, Chris, before we jump off. If we win out here in the regular season, which I do think we do, are we going to see guys playing the bowl game? Like, will Terry Smith have guys playing in this bowl game, like guys that could sit out? What do you think?
That's tough to say. I mean, I don't – like I said, with Katron Allen wanting to go from a rushing record, he might, if he doesn't have it, he would probably go for it. I think guys that are going into the NFL, which I don't know if there's many on this team right now off the top of my head, but I think you might see a couple opt-outs. But overall, probably not. I mean, who would opt out? The only people that would opt out would be people looking to go to a bowl game. People that would be looking to go to the NFL. So who on Penn State right now could go? A.J. Harris has been a disappointment this year. He was supposed to be a top corner. Maybe he's out. Who's the other corner? Davian Collins. I think this is his last year. Would he opt out? Yeah. Zakee Wheatley? I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I don't think there's a lot of,
See, I've said something about the other day about Chaz coming to Ohio State, but here's the thing. Terry Smith is the glue to this team. To finish up here, Terry Smith is the glue to this team. He will have guys that will play in the bowl. They will, I think, stay at Penn State, and they'll come back. I mean, A.J. Harris can come back. Tony Rojas can come back. Apparently, Drew Aller can come back, too. That's what Landon's saying, but he's not coming back here. We won't.
Drew Aller would be Drew Aller would be absolutely insane to follow Franklin, Virginia Tech after how Franklin handled him. That's not a shot at Virginia Tech. I'm just being honest. No. You would be insane to follow Franklin to Virginia Tech. That would be the worst decision on his part. But the parents love him. Like Aller's father texted Franklin after they were fired saying we should be in Iowa together. This is crazy. And as for the Chaz Coleman thing, I'm more worried about him going to Virginia Tech than I am Ohio State. When Franklin was hired at Virginia Tech, there was an Instagram graphic put up about Franklin being hired. And underneath, and I texted it to Mark, underneath you could see who liked it. And Chaz Coleman liked it, putting up the fire symbols. I mean, most of his players love them. It is what it is. Listen, what I am most